Hey there, welcome. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. I'm kind of excited for today's show, because I actually did a lot of work this time around. I'm not just coming in and winging it. No, we're going to talk about Hunter Biden's trial here with my first guest, Laura Reese from the Heritage Foundation. First off, welcome back to the show. I didn't hang up on you there, did I? Are you with me, Laura?
I am here.
Okay, good.
Yep.
But coming up in the next segment, the research report will be my next presentation. So we're going to set the table here, and then we're going to dig into some of the real nitpicky details about, look, of all the presidential sons, this has been the most entertaining one. You got to give him that, Laura.
Oh, I believe I was here to talk about the border security executive order.
Oh, yeah, I have that. Heritage border expert exposes Biden's unserious executive order. Why are you using the term unserious?
Because it's not worth the paper that it's written on. They have built in so many exceptions within the executive order that I don't believe the cap will be used or that migrants will be turned back. And so just refresher, the executive order says if border agents encounter 2,500 illegal aliens per day on a 7-day average, then they can turn back illegal aliens between the ports of entry. However, excluded from those numbers are unaccompanied alien children, the inadmissible aliens that the Biden administration paroles in through the ports of entry, anyone who's been here longer than 14 days, anyone who's made it farther north than 100 miles from the border, anyone who claims a fear of persecution, which is what they're all doing anyway. So this is a fake effort by Joe Biden 5 months out from an election day because he wants to say that he did something.
Yeah, and in the latest surveys I've seen, this has jumped up to the number 2 concern among voters. But if he's really trying to win them over, why is he making such a lame effort to do it?
Well, I mean, his entire administration, they have lied about what they're doing and what they're not doing and gaslit Americans for claiming that the border was not secure or that there's an uptick in crime or that the cost of living is tied to this, et cetera, et cetera. So they basically took the most toxic aspect of the Senate Schumer-Langford bill that failed twice in February and last month and turned that into an executive order with the belief that Americans would say, oh, this was kind of like Title 42 for the public health reason to expel migrants. But it is far from it. And, you know, it's also another opportunity for Joe Biden to try and say, well, it's congressional Republicans' fault for not securing the border. Yet the House did its job. It passed an excellent bill over a year ago, H.R. 2.
Does this mean we're done with that Schumer-Langford bill?
Yes, I believe we are for this calendar year. Democrats will keep trying to bring up some version of it. Plus, they usually try to get some sort of amnesty in, particularly tied to must-pass appropriations and other funding bills. So that is an annual exercise of trying to prevent that from happening.
So is there anything that we can do to stop this? Do you think like the House of Representatives could pass something that would go through the Senate that would reverse some of this, or do we just have to wait for the next election?
Well, Congress has an opportunity to defund a lot of this nonsense. Unfortunately, they fully funded the Biden administration when they did the omnibus appropriations a few months ago and then turned around and gave them even more money in the Ukraine and Israel supplemental for very vague language of vulnerable populations. It didn't say that, refugees from those countries, it didn't name those countries, would receive billions of dollars in assistance. The language used was vulnerable populations. So Congress failed at stopping the money flow for all of this, unfortunately. But they have another opportunity to get it right and to exercise that power of the purse that they have this calendar year for next year's funding.
Is there any chance that since this isn't going to fix the issue, Biden may try some actual useful policies before the election?
No, he has shown that he is bought in with the radical left for an open border agenda. After 3.5 years of seeing historic numbers of illegal crossings, unaccompanied children, migrant deaths, American deaths to drugs, and on, and he hasn't changed yet, he's not going to. He'll just be more deceitful about it, like we saw yesterday.
Well, that's not going to help in the long term, except for the economy. This is the number one issue for voters. Laura Reese from the Heritage Foundation, thanks for being on the James Show.
Thank you.
All right, any comments on that? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about the Hunter Biden gun trial, but what we're really going to talk about is all the Hunter Biden storylines that are going on behind the scenes that aren't making headlines. And I think you'll really get a kick out of that coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. One of the frustrating things about seeing Hunter Biden on trial is after all that we saw Trump go through with the E. Jean Carroll trial, where you couldn't even prove that they've ever been in a dressing room together, much less that the assault happened, much less that the defamation happened, much less that there was just one after another. And then the same thing that happened with the lawsuit where he supposedly falsified business documents to get loans that were in his favor, when there were a whole bunch of stretches that the law was used in ways that had never been used before, but they got him. They found him guilty. And then in this last one, similar story with the non-disclosure payments to Stormy. They took a federal charge. They made it local. They turned a misdemeanor into a felony so the statute of limitations wouldn't run out. And they made all these stretches and just Stretch Armstrong use of the law. And they got him. Well, for Hunter Biden, it's like, well, we better follow all our P's and Q's because this guy, we don't want to convict an innocent man. This dude is not innocent. This dude is running around. He's just a one-man crime spree. And you've seen the video evidence for years now. And okay, so he's brought up on the gun charge. This is this is an open shut case. Should be an open shut case. If that dude said that he wasn't addicted to drugs on a gun form, I think it's pretty easy to prove that this dude had drug problems probably the day before and the day after. And that's what they're finding. Like if you want to go try and parse through the actual evidence on this, you're surprised that he didn't take some sort of plea deal like they were trying to give him last year for those other charges. And there's evidence that he was texting the day before and the day after he filled out that gun sheet that he was doing drugs. And so the whole idea of this case, well, yeah, we've got to follow all the rules and give everyone their due process. We wouldn't want an innocent man to go to jail when they were just making all kinds of stretches before that. And it's amazing how this guy hasn't gone to jail before. Like, how much crack can you smoke on video and have the whole world see it without anyone bringing charges on you? That wouldn't happen if it was you. That wouldn't happen if it was your son. That wouldn't happen if it was your husband or whoever else that was close to you, your parents. I don't know. Who's the druggies in your life? Use them as the avatar for what's going on here. So what else? We got the prostitutes. We have the illegal guns. And really, most of the people I talk to, left, right, and undecided, don't care too much about the crack. They don't care too much about the prostitutes. They don't care even really about the gun charge. They care about the millions of dollars that were flowing. 10 million from China. We got another few million from Ukraine, a few million from some of the least savory characters on the geopolitical scene. And that's far more consequential because look, you and I both know it, just because it hasn't been gavelled in a court of law. This guy has been the conduit for buying influence from his dad. If you wanted to buy influence from Joe Biden, you wouldn't give Joe Biden the money. They're not that stupid. You would pay off Hunter, or you would give him a job and shove him money there. And Joe Biden gets his cut, but it also gets you meetings, access. It's hard to put a dollar value on access, but the trade-off has been huge. I mean, you can already see the payoffs. If you're the Ukrainian Burisma oil and gas people, of course, you're connected in the highest rungs of Ukrainian government. Your connections to Joe Biden has netted you $200 billion worth of aid. So if you could just skim off, 1% of that, you've got yourself $2 billion. Now, it was quite an investment there, quite a return on your investment, I should say, to pay Hunter Biden $80,000 a month or whatever he was getting from Burisma. I mean, so what, they overall paid this dude maybe $3 to $8 million through various channels, and they got $2 billion in return. That's what they got. That's what they paid for. That's what they got. How you like that? I mean, but it's really obvious, and he's not going to trial for that. The problem is, I know that, you know that, but if you open the window and throw a rock, whoever you hit probably doesn't know that. Why? Because it doesn't get reported on. There is an excellent piece in newsbusters.org. I tell you about these websites. I hope you actually go to some of these. But they have a rundown of 5 Hunter Biden scandals that are not being reported by ABC, CBS, NBC. And look, you can almost throw in CNN or MSNBC in that group. But after you have to do a 24-hour news cycle day after day after day, you'll at least throw it in there to cover it up or excuse it or dismiss it, or just give it like a 20-second coverage so you can't be accused of ducking it. But there's some recent information just in the last few months that has come to light that you don't know about, and you keep up with this stuff. I'll give you some examples real quick. On May 27th, just a little over a week ago, the New York Post reported that Hunter Biden used Joe Biden's appearance at a Sandy Hook shooting memorial event to coordinate a meeting between Joe Biden and a Chinese business partner of Hunter's. These are newly unveiled text. We have some new text and some new communications from this guy that have been made public in the last few months. They don't want to dig into that. When I say they, I mean the people who are tied to Team Blue. They don't want to dig into that. So this happened December 12th, 2017. It was a WeChat. They arranged the meeting between some guy, Liu Yedong. I don't pretend to know who that is, but he's a CEFC executive meeting with the father. Now, technically, that's not illegal. There's nothing really wrong there. But if there's nothing wrong there, then why'd this guy lie about it? Remember, he said over and over he never did these meetings.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period. And what I will do is the same thing we did in our administration. There will be an absolute wall between personal and private and the government.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
So now we're in a situation that reminds me of the rhetorical genius, really one of the Shakespeares of our time, Shaggy. He had a song called It Wasn't Me. And whatever the accusation was, whatever the evidence was brought against this cheating bastard, he stuck with the script. It wasn't me. She caught me banging on the counter. It wasn't me. She saw me banging on the sofa. It wasn't me. She saw me kissing on the sofa. It wasn't me. I'm sorry, that's the clean version. I even had her in the shower. It wasn't me. She even caught me on camera. It wasn't me. Saw the marks on my shoulder. It wasn't me. Heard the words that I told her. It wasn't me. Heard the screams getting louder. It wasn't me. She stayed until it was over. It wasn't me. Now, the total amount of coverage on the evening and morning show news programs on ABC, CBS, NBC, how much coverage did it get? Oh, you guessed it. You already knew. 0 seconds. On May 22nd, New York Post reported the House Ways and Means Committee voted Wednesday to release 100 pages of new evidence showing Hunter Biden lied under oath to Congress during a deposition on February 28th. Oh, really? Yes. The IRS whistleblowers who started this whole probe into Hunter Biden's finances, their depositions don't match and the evidence doesn't match. And now that it's come out from this Ways and Means Committee investigation, you think this would be a big deal. ABC, CBS, NBC, their evening and morning show news coverage, 0 seconds. There's another one. On May 20th, the New York Post reported that Hunter claims he never introduced his dad to a Burisma executive. But then we have new info that, yes, they did. This is connected to that February 28th deposition and then some of the evidence that was turned over there. Some guy named Pozarski, I don't know. They met at Cafe Milano, April 16th, 2015. Emails show Hunter is the one who set up the dinner, which included some other foreign patrons. But really the important part is there was a Burisma executive who had been paying Hunter all these months, sitting next to Dad. ABC, CBS, NBC. Total coverage, 0 seconds. Now think about how many times they were talking about Stormy Daniels or adult stars or hush monies over these last couple of weeks. Not 1 second of coverage for that. We also have new evidence that Joe Biden met with some Qatari officials. And we also have the CIA blocked Hunter's sugar brother attorney friend from being interviewed by the feds. Now, this is all new information, but the total coverage, ABC, CBS, NBC morning and evening news shows, 0 seconds. So the Hunter Biden stuff, it doesn't look that bad. Like, this trial doesn't even look that bad. Oh, man, so the guy got a gun and he did drugs. Whoop-de-doo. No. If you go behind the curtain, the stuff that they're not taking him to trial for, 1,000 times worse. That's the stuff you should be concerned about. And that's the stuff that, as long as we're talking about this, they have cover. We're talking about Hunter. What do you want to do? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. While, look, I did a lot of the background. Let me do some of the contemporary stuff you're hearing about this Hunter Biden story, because it really is a compelling story. Journalistically speaking, is this the most important thing going on today that's affecting you and your family the most? No, it's definitely not. But it does have, larger, wide-ranging implications for the security of the entire country and the planet as a whole. I mean, dumb stuff like this, when you look through the course of history, people in orbits of power have caused big problems, even if they didn't have power themselves, like a Helena of Troy situation. I mean, this is how world wars could start. But look, I'm not saying that's what this Hunter Biden case is. However, the stories that are coming out of this are fantastic. Too bad the media is a bunch of political hacks that couldn't dare report things that hurt the narrative, because the stuff that's coming out of this stand, you thought the Stormy Daniels testimony was some exciting stuff. You need to meet Keston. Where's that come from? You need to meet Keston. Keston is an adult dancer, and she met Hunter back in December of 2017. Now, December of 2017, that's 7 years ago. But that is during the time for which Trump was president, and it's not too far off the time from which Joe Biden had been vice president. Remember, there's just a little narrow 4-year window between Biden being vice president, and we're in that. So Hunter goes to an adult dance venue, and he meets this young lady, and after the club closes, he closes down a strip club. I had my party days, man. James in his 20s was not James in his 40s. And I used to close down some clubs, but I never closed down a strip club. So I don't know how long he was staying out, but when the rest of it closed, he put up a bunch of money for a couple of people to stay. And so they had the room to themselves, and he was playing music off of his phone because the DJ had left. I mean, we have details here. But she says he was smoking out of some type of pipe she had never seen before, but it smelled like crack cocaine. And so she assumed it was crack cocaine. And it was after she hung out that night with him, he invited her back to the hotel, and she declined that first time. But then later that week, surfing through the news, she discovered she was just hanging out with the son of Joe Biden, longtime senator, former vice president. Guys in the polls already for the next presidential race was probably being mentioned. And so the next time he called and said, hey, you want to hang out? She's like, sure. And so she went and stayed at his house with another chick. And after about a day, the other woman left, but she stayed for 5 days and was for a while his girlfriend. She said the second time that she went to go hang out with him, this is now in January of 2018, in the hotel room when she's hanging out, she said Hunter was smoking crack within the first 10 or 15 minutes. When he got started smoking crack, even if they were on a trip, the norm is he would smoke crack every 20 minutes. Wow. If he was out in public, if he was out at some event where he couldn't sneak off every 20 minutes and smoke crack, he would still try and smoke crack at least once an hour. This is on business trips. When we talk about how he accompanied his father to some conference in Lisbon, Portugal, or he went on a trip to Singapore, or he was with his dad at some climate conference, or, like the Sandy Hook memorial that we had mentioned in the previous segment, he's smoking crack every hour. So when we put this info together and think, hey, remember a few months ago when We found out someone had left a baggie in the White House, and we never could figure out whose it was. And when someone mentioned, hey, maybe it's Hunter's, like, oh, he wouldn't be dumb enough to do drugs in the White House. Yes, he would. He's an addict. And I'm not beating up on him too bad. I'm related to some addicts. I know plenty of addicts. They're embarrassing. But we know what that looks like, and we know he just can't turn it off because his daddy became president. He's still an addict. He's still smoking crack. He's still using drugs. He's probably high right now. You understand that? I mean, you understand that. You just want to shake the people who are apologists for it and be like, listen, he's a junkie, okay? That doesn't make Joe Biden a bad guy, but come on, can't we at least admit he's a junkie? We had the gun store employee who gave Hunter Biden the paperwork. He had to take the stand in Hunter Biden's trial. You hear a whole lot about that today? No. StarQuest Shooters and Survival Supply is the name of this place, which I think is a great name for a gun store. StarQuest Shooters and Survival Supply. So we are getting details about who filled out the form. It better be Biden. And look, if for some of you who think that these details are too minute and not important, a lot of people are relating this to themselves. Just like I said, a lot of people have crackheads in their family or drug addicts in their family, or at least alcoholics in their family. They know what the addictive, compulsive behavior can look like. So a lot of us have been in the situation where we're in a gun store, and I think of myself. It was a couple weeks ago. One of my friends in Bug Tussle has a new gun store that he opened, and so when we went there to buy the form, my dad wanted to buy a gun. My dad had left his reading glasses in his truck, and so it was time to fill out the form. He's like, "Hey, will you fill this out for me? I'd left my glasses in the car." Our friend who owns the store, who knows us, who has known us, can totally verify our identity, whatever. He said, no, you can't do that. No one else can fill out this form except for him, unless you have some sort of like legal disability. And then you have like a power of attorney guy that has to fill it out for you. So we are made, you are made, your family is made, your kids are made, your siblings are made to follow the letter of the law when it comes to purchasing a gun. So to see this guy skate, that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. And look, it wasn't that big of a deal that my dad had to walk out to the truck and go and find his glasses and come back in and fill it out. I mean, he is in his 70s and he's had some health issues. And so it's a little bit more of a chore than it is for normal people to go out there. But people notice when you have to follow the law, when your kid gets put in jail for smoking crack, or when your kid gets put in jail for being in the hooker game, or your kid gets put in jail for some sort of gun charge, but this guy doesn't. See, that's why this is important. It's not that he's got a kid with a problem, and the kid, I mean, he loves his drugs. He loves alcohol too. Apparently he was drinking, mixing the entire time, alcohol and crack. But not only does he have all these faults, there's consequences. There are things on the other side of this. Like I love to use the example. If your husband comes home at 4 a.m. and he lies about where he was, the problem isn't the lie. The problem is, why is he lying? Why does he feel the need to cover it up? Because he's doing something you don't want to know. But Hunter Biden, in all this testimony and some of the new evidence that's coming out and some of the emails and texts that were released from the House and Ways Committee investigation just earlier this year, it's lock, stock, and barrel. This guy is a criminal. This guy has broken the law over and over. There is no question. There is no gray area. You and I and the voters out there are just wondering, is there really a two-tier justice system? Is this guy going to be held to account? Because if Trump, there's not a two-tier justice system, everyone has to follow the law, we're about to find out if they really mean that. And not all American people are going to get it, but enough people are going to get the message if this comes out and Hunter Biden doesn't go to jail and Trump does. And this is going to affect the vote. Period. Point blank. End of story. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.